Hey there, it's Dina from IDon'tGetItTutoring.com. In this video, I will be explaining percentages. Let's get started. Before we start working with percentages, we also need to know exactly what they are. I'm sure you've heard the term 30%, 40%, 50% thrown around, but do you know what it actually means? The word percent can tell you a lot about it just by the word itself. Cent sounds a lot like century. And what's a century? 100 years. So percent is another way of saying per 100. So percent is per 100, there is X amount. So it's basically a generalization and a way of saying for every 100, for every whole amount, for every total amount, in this case 100 is the total because it's the easiest number to work with, per total X amount does something, for example. So when we're saying 100%, this is a whole. And when we say 50%, 50 out of 100 is equal to 1/2. So this is half. 10% could be written as 1 out of 100, which is 1/10. So 1/10. Now, you're probably confused as to how I got to these fractions so fast, so I'm going to explain that now. When it says per 100, you can definitely put this into a fraction to really interpret it, because percentages can be written as decimals or fractions. So if you have a fraction, you could convert it into a percentage because they're equal. Now, per 100, so it's like out of 100, right? So when you think of the word out of 100, the phrase out of 100, you could turn this into a fraction and put 100 underneath, because 5 100ths would be 5 out of 100, or 15 out of 100, or 150 out of 100. That's also a valid fraction and can be converted into a percentage. So when you think of a percentage like 97.5, 80%, 2%, all of these percentages can be written as fractions. So it would be 97.5 out of 100, 80 over 100, 2 over 100. And now, the way we could convert them into decimals is to convert the fractions into decimals. So 97.5 divided by 100, if you were to simplify that, that would turn into 0.975. 80 over 100 would turn into 0.8. And 2 over 100 would become 0.02. Okay? And that also makes sense because, in a way, 80 over 100 could be written as 8/10. And what is this decimal right here? 8/10. There's an 8 in the 10th place. And 2 out of 100, right? We have 2/100ths in this decimal. So that's another way to think about it. Now to turn decimals into percentages, all you do is you take the decimal point this is really important. You take a decimal, let's use our example 0.975, and you take it and you move it once, twice to the right. So 0.975 becomes 97.5, and then you add a percent to it, a percent sign to it. Because that's the same thing as multiplying that decimal by 100, right? 0.975 times 100 is 97.5. Let's do it with our other examples. 0.8. That becomes that becomes 80%. And if we do 0.8 times 100, that's equal to 80%. And 0.02, move it twice, 2%. 0.02 times 100 is equal to 2%. It's as easy as that. You just need to know how to play around with the numbers in order to convert them into percentages and to turn percentages into fractions. Because when you're working with word problems, it's easy for them to use fractions and decimals interchangeably, and you need to know what the difference is and how to convert them into each other, because you could get confused, and when you're solving a problem, instead of doing, like, let's say they give you 0.02, you might do 0.02% instead of 2% if they give you this, right? This is very different than this. 2% is 2%. That's 2 out of 100. 0.02 is 2/100ths out of 100. So think of it like 2 cents. This is 2 cents because 100 pennies in a dollar. This would be 2 cents out of a dollar. But this would be 2/100ths of a cent out of a dollar, which is really small. Now let's do some practice to make sure you fully understand the concept. So convert these decimals into percentages. Feel free to pause the video, try it on your own, and we're going to go over it together now. 0.813 turns into decimal point, 81.3. We could also multiply by 100, gives you the same thing, 81.3%. Multiply 0.081 times 100. What do you get? 8.1%. 3.2. Now that's different. We only did examples with a 0 in the ones place, but this time we've got a 3. What are we going to do with the 3? Same exact thing. So what you could do is you could just move the decimal over twice and be left with 320%. You could also multiply by 100 and it gives you the same exact thing. Last two examples, same process, boom, boom. We have decimal point right here. So we have 0.0003%, which is a really, really small percentage. Very small amount. And finally, 30.3% these last three zeros, you could add them, like 30.300, but it's kind of unnecessary because the zeros don't add anything to it. They're not significant figures, so you could just leave it as 30.3. Okay. Now, before we finish, I just want to add one thing about 320%. You don't usually see stuff like this, like percentages this high. Like when a percentage is over 100, that means the number is greater than the total. So if 100% is one whole, then 200% is two wholes. And then 320% would be three wholes and 2/10 of a whole. Or you could also write it as 20 hundredths, same thing. Okay? That covers the first part of percentages. Now let's get into the second part. How do you find a percentage of something? So, let's say we want to find 30% of 20. How are we going to do that? It's really easy. Actually, let me make the numbers a little more easy for the first example, and then for the next one we'll get a little more challenging. So something as easy as 30% of 100. Now, one way you could think about it is converting this into a fraction. 30 out of 100 is 30% of 100. And then you're done. But it's not going to be as easy as finding percentages of 100 because it's very easy. Whatever the percentage is tells you automatically how many it is out of 100. Now, you can certainly do this, but the most common way to do it, the easiest way to do it, the fastest way to do it is to convert your percentage into a decimal, and that would be, you convert it back into a decimal, boom, boom, 2 spaces to the left, you move the decimal in the other way, so it's like you're dividing by 100, and you get 0.3. 0.3, you multiply that by the number you're trying to get the percentage of. In this case, it's 100. 0.3 times 100 is 30. There you go. Pretty easy. And now let's do 30% of 20. Same exact process. That becomes 0.3 times 20. 0.3 times 20. Let me use my calculator. Is 6. Boom. Easy as that. Very simple. And let's say we wanted to get a little more complex and use one of those bigger fractions I just mentioned. Like 300%. Oh, 300% of 20. How would we do that? 300%, 3 wholes. 20 is 1 whole. So 3 times 20 is 3 times 20 is 60. Boom. We could also do it the other way, where we do 300, move the decimal point twice, and then you still get 3 times 20. Same exact thing. Now, let's try 320% of 20. 320%, move the decimal point 3.2 times 2, that is equal to 6.4. And there you go. Very straightforward. Very easy. Now, we know how to get a percentage of something now. But let's say we want to figure out what percentage of a number something is. So let's say we have the number 50. 50 is what percent of 100? All you have to do, it's very easy, 50 over 100. Find the fraction or find the decimal. So fraction would be simplified to half, and the decimal would be 0.5. You move the decimal point twice. 50%. 50 is 50% of 100. Let's try it with some other numbers now. 3 is x percent. You might see x percent. X, you're solving for the variable. It's just saying 3 is what percent? 3 is an unknown percent of, this time let's make the number 92. 3 is x percent of 92. All you do is you take 3, put it over 92, just like we did. Turn that into a decimal. That would be a really long decimal. You have 0.0326087. You move it twice. And then you're left with 3.26087%. There you go. Let's do one last example. 5 is x percent of 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. And 1, boom, boom, 2 decimal places over. 5 is 100% of 5. 5 is one whole if 5 is the whole. There you go. Easy as that. Now, I just want to teach you one last trick with percentages. So, 7% of 400. We're trying to find 7% of 400. Now, we could sit there doing the calculation. It's not going to take us a long time. But let's say you are in a super fast-paced environment and you need to figure it out super fast, like the SAT, for example. Instead of doing 0.07 times 400 and then doing the rest of the calculations we went over, all you could do, 7% of 400 is equal to 400% of 7. Interesting, right? 400% of 7, like we said, would be the same as 4 times 7. 4 times 7, 28. Boom. Done. You don't even need to do all this. Too much work. It works nicely when you're trying to find it out of like a number that's an 100, right? Like 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 1,000, 1,100. Anything that ends like this with like a bunch of zeros is really easy to do this with. It works mostly with multiples of 100. Okay? And the reason why this works is because 7 out of 100, that equals, because x out of 400, that equals 7 out of 100, is equal to x out of 7 over 400, 400 over 100. Yeah, it's the same exact thing. So that's why it works. Just a little tip, putting it out there. If you come across a problem like this, it would be super easy and convenient to do it. And yeah, that concludes our video. Thank you so much for watching. In this video, we went over percentages, what they are, how to convert decimals into percentages, how to find the percentage of a number, and how to find percentages, what percentage a number is out of a percentage. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. Bye!